What is up, YouTube? It is the Ville Outdoors here. Today is August 19th of 2022, and I have made my farthest journey yet this summer. I am in Maryland once more. I had to drive up towards Harrisburg, back down past Gettysburg, and into Maryland, and I believe this is the Little Beaver Creek, it's called. Now, as you can see, it's a fairly small stream. Not a whole lot of water running through here, but this is a cold spring-fed stream, so water is pretty chilly. And our main target today is trying to get some Sculpin species on the board, some of which in this watershed would be a new species for us, as well as try and track down some other species today. I probably won't be fishing this creek the whole day. I'll probably move around to some other different spots and see if I can check a few other species off my list. But the past couple trips I've made, I haven't brought the camera, unfortunately. The first time I didn't film because it was just me and my dad fishing. We were back in the Pine Barrens. If you remember, a few videos back, I caught my first ever mud sunfish, first ever blue spotted sunfish, and we caught some pickerel. Went back to that spot and I caught my first ever black banded sunfish. It was species number 89 for me, so I'll include a picture once I'm done talking here. And then this past Monday, it was a little rainy in the morning, but I decided to head out fishing anyway, and I mistakenly forgot my GoPro at home. I didn't do it on purpose, and I went to Newport, Pennsylvania. It's a little northwest of Harrisburg. Fished another creek kind of similar to this, a smaller creek, nice cold water, good stuff like that. And I caught two new species there. I caught the Central Stone Roller, which is species number 90 for me, and the Mottled Sculpin, which is species number 91 for me. So past couple videos, I've been going around different places trying to add new species to my fishing life list, which is basically where you don't necessarily go for the biggest fish, but go for as many different species as you can possibly catch and see if you can find any new ones. It's like a game of hide and go seek, sort of. So we're going to be doing that today, see if we can add any more species to our life list today, hop into a couple different spots here in Maryland, and we'll see what we come up with. But we're starting off fishing this tiny stream. I got my ultralight rod right here, 6-foot Ugly Stik Elite. Fast action rod. The action won't really matter for this type of fishing because we're not really going to be casting. I got the tiny Tanago hook on there. You can just barely see it on my fingernail there, and then you got a split shot above that to keep the bait kind of where we want it. And basically these rocks around here, these Sculpin will hide under these rocks in some of the moving water, so we just want to kind of drop it around the rocks and see if there's any Sculpin that'll come out and grab this thing. But hopefully we can catch a couple of cool different species of fish. It's about 8 in the morning right now, about 8:15 maybe. So we got a decent chunk of the day to fish, and we're just gonna get some worms on our hook here. I fooled around in the bushes a little bit, and I was able to gather a nice little pile of them here. So we're gonna be threading some pieces of those on the hook, and hopefully those Sculpin will be all over that. So enough with the talking, let's get to fishing and we'll see what we can do. All right guys, we got our little tiny piece of worm rigged up there, and we're gonna start punching some rocks and see if we can come up with anything. Might get up the photo tank ready, that way we don't have to run and grab it, but yeah, let's see if we can get anything. All right guys, we got our first species of the day here, but it is not a Sculpin. It is a little eastern blacknose dace right there. So we're just going to take a shot of this guy and then we're going to let him go, but not the species that we were after. All right guys, I finally got a Sculpin here in my hands. I'm not going to let it go because it'll escape. But I'm going to set up the photo tank and then we can take a look at this guy. Whew, that took me long enough. All right, I don't know how well you can see that guy in there, but based off the range, that should be a checkered sculpin, which is actually a undescribed species of sculpin that used to be part of the slimy sculpin complex, which is another species of sculpin. But most people in the community have considered this to be its own separate species that has yet to be described, and that would be the checkered sculpin right there. So I'm going to take a few shots of this guy, and then we can go ahead and let him go. But there he is. Sculpins are such cool little fish. Alright guys, there we go. One last look at our little sculpin. He's getting ready to go back in the water here. Just gonna try and send him off as best as possible. And he's sitting right down below a rock, right back in his natural habitat. Came from this little pool right below this log, in between a little crack in the rocks. I dropped the worm down. He came out and grabbed it. Our first sculpin of the day. There is, if that was a checkered sculpin, which I believe it was, there is at least one more species of sculpin we can find in this stream, if not more. I believe they're a bit harder to come by in this area, but we'll see what we can do. I hopped spots and been walking a good bit down the stream to get to where the supposed sculpins and other fish are, but have not made it there quite yet. It's going to be at the confluence of two different streams that where these fish were caught at, that I've seen the records of. So that's where I'm trying to get to currently. And if I don't find any fish there, then I'll be on to our next spot, which will probably be more of an open creek, a bit further west even. And then after we hit that, we'll probably work our way back this way to some other spots around here. But I wanted to hit that spot before I made my voyage back home today. It's about 10:30 right now, so I've been out here about 2.5 hours. Haven't seen a whole lot of life in this creek, but let's keep on walking and see if we can find anything. Just caught another fish, and it is a monster Blacknose Dace. You don't see them that size too often. I thought it was going to be something else with that dark stripe. It looked like it was going to be like a little bass fry or some sort, but it is just a sizable eastern Blacknose Dace. Alright guys, finally got another fish here. Not really sure what it is. We're going to take some shots and then release this guy. Don't know if this is going to be a new one for me or not, but yeah, let's take some shots and we'll see. Alright guys, there's our little fish swimming around in the photo tank there. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is an Allegheny pearl dace, and this could be species 93 for me. The whatever sculpin we caught this morning, I believe it was a checkered sculpin. That would have been 92 for me. And this guy, if he is an Allegheny pearl dace, that would be number 93 for me, and another target off the list for today's trip. But I'm going to take a few more shots to confirm, and I'm going to let this guy go, and then we're going to head out of here and fish the Antietam Creek. We're going to do some microfishing there, see if there's any darters or shiners that we don't have that want to show up. But that is most likely a lifer right there. Alright guys, going to go ahead and let this little guy go back into the creek here. That should be another species for me. Alright guys, we have made it to our next spot. This is the Antietam Creek, and we're going to be doing some microfishing once again. I pretty much have everything on my species list that would be a bit bigger in here, other than some like suckers, and there might be some walleye in here, but this isn't really the season to catch walleye in right now. So we're mainly going to be looking for darters in this creek here. So we're going to be scanning these rocks here. They'll usually be perched up on the rocks or right alongside the rocks. and they're kind of hard to see, so you got to look pretty hard. And we just got a tiny piece of worm on there still with this Tanago hook, and we're going to see if we can get some of these, and hopefully there might be some that are new species in here. So let's give it a shot and see if we can come up with anything. Alright guys, I finally got whatever one of these shiners is. Hopefully I don't lose it. Just popped off the hook, so I'm going to get the photo tank working, and hopefully this guy doesn't slip out so we can take some shots of him. There's our shiner there going nuts in the photo tank. I believe this is just a Spotfin shiner after looking at it in the little tank here. We're going to take some shots and then we're going to let this guy go. There's a large school of shiners right here. I'm not sure what they are. I don't know if they're the same Spotfin or not, but we're going to see if we can get one here and see if it's anything new for us or not. Because there is eastern silvery minnow and silverjaw minnow that is native to this watershed. Both of the Notropes genus, I believe. And if it turns out to be one of those would be new species for me. That or a comely shiner would also be a new species as well. This game's all about patience. You think you'll have them and then they'll steal the bait right off your hook, or they'll slip right off the hook. They'll evade you left and right. It'll seem frustrating at times, but it's always worth it in the end, usually. Alright guys, I finally got a darter here. I'm not even going to open my hand, not even going to give him a chance to escape. I don't know if this is a new species or not. It could just be a tessellated darter, but we're going to go up on the bank and take a look. Alright, let me get the photo tank set up. I'll be right back with you guys. Upon further investigation, I believe this is just a normal tessellated darter. He's got all the classic markings of tessellated darter. Nothing really that intriguing about him, but yeah, we'll take some shots and let him go. Alright guys, I think this is going to be my stopping point, at least for this creek. We're going to turn around now and try and find a new spot to fish, a new creek to fish. It's getting a little muddy, a little deep. The darters weren't playing along, but this isn't the only creek we can find darters from. Might be the only spot we can find the rainbow darter around here, but we still need the green side darter, and that can be plentiful in some other creeks. So we're gonna try and map out another spot to try, and we'll go from there. All right, made it to our next little spot here. This was actually on the way to the spot that I had mapped out. I decided, oh, why not just stop here and see if there's anything. The creek's right next to the road. It would be hard to get lost, and I just follow that road to get to the next spot. So not out of the way at all, because I don't think I have service in this location, which is a bummer, but we'll see if there's any fish in this creek. I believe this is the Little Hunting Creek. Not quite sure about that, but I believe that's what this creek is called. So let's explore and see if we can find anything. Well, our first fish out of this creek is the eastern Blacknose Dace once more. Guess we might have to actually go to the spot we had mapped out for long-nosed dace to get long-nosed dace, but hopefully there's one around here somewhere and we won't have to do that, but we'll see. Alright guys, I didn't know there was Sculpin in this creek, but I just got a Sculpin out of the rocks here. So let me get my photo tank situated so we can take good care of this guy. It's an interesting looking one. Alright guys, we got our Sculpin in the photo tank here. See if you can see him in there. Beautiful sample. I'm not 100% sure what type of Sculpin that could be. It could be a checkered Sculpin, possibly a Blue Ridge Sculpin, possibly a Potomac Sculpin. I really don't know. I have to take some shots, which I just did, and identify it somehow. But beautiful, beautiful fish. I've only caught my first Sculpin earlier this week, but they're so neat looking. Let's see if I can get them in my hand here. Just look at that guy. Absolute beauty. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna release him back into the creek here. He's going back down the rocks, blends right in. Absolutely beautiful fish. If we're lucky, the two different Sculpins we caught today will be different species of Sculpin, and then we'll up our species count even more for the day. But that made it worth stopping here, that Sculpin did. Well, let's get the bait back in the water and let's try and catch another. Alright guys, the time has come. It is just about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it is time for me to make my departure. Fished for a while, since about like 8:15 this morning. So just about 8 hours, a little under, and didn't go exactly as we planned it, but it wasn't a bad day either. We did catch most likely 2 new species. I still have to get identification on a couple of them, but most likely it was 2. I don't think we caught 3 unless the one shiner we caught was different than a spot tail shiner or something else, or if that Sculpin that we caught wasn't a checkered Sculpin, or it possibly could have been a Blue Ridge Sculpin. If that was the case, it could be a new species, but the odds are slim with that, but it's not completely ruled out. So most likely 2 new species, but possibly a 3rd. So not terrible. I'll include the captions of everything once I completely identified it and correctly identified it. So we should be up to 93 species on our life list now, which is what I drove out here for, to add some species to our life list. We didn't pick up every species that we wanted to. I thought I could just go around to the different spots and pick each species up like a scavenger hunt, but learned the hard way that it's not quite that easy. Had trouble finding some parking at a couple of spots, and access to the creek was slim in those areas as well, but we did find a couple spots we were able to catch some cool fish. So hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing me get excited over little fish, and hopefully this micro fishing might pique an interest of yours. It is certainly a different style of fishing, I will say, but it can be fun. It won't be the giant fish that you post to your social media, but they're cool fish that you'll never see unless you downsize your hooks. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. All the gear I use will be listed down in the description. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of the Ville Outdoors.